Introducing FarmToTable, our collaboration platform connecting Canadian farmers and volunteers to food banks. So what's the problem that we're trying to solve? Throughout Canada, farmers are dumping large amounts of crop due to the lower demand from the food industry. Farms are forced to continue to grow crops. If demand goes back to normal, they can't really risk getting caught behind a crop cycle. This means that as farmers harvest, they're forced to dump their crops as they're too expensive to ship and there's no demand for them. So let's talk about where we fit in. We know farms whose sales are mainly retail are suffering because of the low demand in the food industry. Crops are very expensive to transport for the already struggling farming sector, and we have many people currently sitting at home with absolutely nothing to do. So participating farmers could give this extra produce to food banks accepting fresh produce, or food banks could work to buy shipments directly from farms, but transporting produce is expensive. The farming industry is already in trouble due to the low sales, and food banks are struggling with the current COVID response. This is where we step in, offering a service to connect participating farmers, volunteers, and local food banks.
We set up a MySQL database for our backend on the Google Cloud platform. And as you can see, we already have a bit of sample data populated. In addition to the farmers and volunteers, we have a table for food banks, as well as schedules, which we'll discuss a little bit later. So let's get right into the demo. Let's say I'm a new farmer. I'm first going to register on the app, filling in my contact information and address. Once that's done, I can log in, but first let me show you what invalid credentials look like. So when I put in a valid login, I can see an empty calendar, and this shows all of my assigned available time slots, which I don't have yet because I'm still a new user. So let's fill a few in. As I fill in my calendar, this is what gets put into the schedules table in our database.
Okay, now we're going to log into a volunteer account. So we already have this set up, so I'm just going to quickly go through this. Sign in, and we will see their welcome back to the page and along with the calendar. So you'll see there are 3 farms that are populated on the left. They can select different locations, so they have different distances, and those distances are calculated using various Google Cloud APIs, including the Google Maps APIs, the Google Distance Matrix API, and the Geocode API. And with that, the volunteer can click through various farms and pick their available times. So we'll see on the first one, there's these 2 days. On the second one, however, when the calendar loads, we have a different set of dates, and I can add in an available pickup time. So I can click on here, and actually let's click on a different one. You can see a different time. Okay, let's click 10 to 10:30, confirm pickup. It'll take a few seconds, and then it'll update the entire system on both the farmer and the user side. And we see, okay, now the pickup time is gone and it's no longer on the schedule, but for the farmer schedule. But if we click on our current schedule, we can see that Sunday, August 30th at 10 a.m. has been added in, and then they can switch between scheduled, en route, and delivered as they progress through the system.
Once the volunteer confirms their time slot, they, along with their associated farmer, will receive a Google Calendar invitation for the event. We set this up using the Google Calendar API as well as the Google Maps URL schemes for an attached link to their route. So let's take a look at my calendar. As you can see, I now have a time slot booked. If we take a look at Josh's calendar, we can see that he got the same invitation with a mapped out route from his location to the farm selected to the food bank that it's delivering to. And so at the time of the scheduled pickup, he just clicks the link to load his route and he's on his way. It's that simple. Now, obviously, as a POC, this app has a lot of room for further development. We'd love to add more detail to the route tracking to provide more accurate real-time updates. In addition, we want to extend the UI. Now, obviously, as a POC, this app has a lot of room for further development. We'd love to add more detail to the route tracking to provide more accurate real-time updates. In addition, we want to extend the UI to allow food banks to register as their own parties to specify information like their specific hours of operation.